Hello, everyone, and welcome to LeeLa. I'm Philbrook. The intention of the LeeLa community is to transform conversations and practices into actions that make a difference. And LeeLa comes from Sanskrit, and it means divine or creative play. It literally translates to your story, and we love to explore others' stories. I am super excited for our show this evening. We'll start off with a quick background on us, your hosts. I'll then do an opening intention. And I'm thrilled to have Wildfit coach Lianne Morgan-Sands with us this evening as our special guest. We'll then do our closing intentions and final announcements. And we do encourage cameras on. It really helps facilitate community. So please feel free to turn your cameras on. And if you have any questions as we go along, put your questions in the chat box. So here we go, over to my co-host, Lisa English.
Welcome to LeeLa, everyone. This is a space where you can learn, explore, and have fun. Through our storytelling, we hope to inspire you all to live a more intentional life. I'm a high school teacher and a youth mentor, and I've always been interested in learning about the body and health. I actually studied it at university, so I'm really looking forward to being in conversation tonight with Leanne to discuss how Wildfit is making a tremendous difference in the health and overall well-being of individuals all over the planet. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it back over to my co-host, Philbrook.
I'm an empowerment practitioner who's passionate about supporting women who overthink, feel frustrated, anxious, and stuck. My clients feel like they're struggling, and now they are finally ready to make changes in their lives to move forward.
The camera won't turn on.
Oh, Nancy?
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay, Nancy. It's all right that your cameras, we know that you're there, and just follow along and we'll go from there. So as I was saying, my clients feel like they're struggling, and now they are finally ready to make changes in their lives to move forward. Working with me, these women experience new possibilities in their lives, their communities, and the world. I use my skills as a coach, Reiki master, and a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy to help transform and empower people. So if any of these things resonate with you, or you have friends or family that can use the support, please feel free to contact me at any time. So Lisa's put a link in the chat box for direct access to my website. And now I would like to start with our opening intention that really connects us and holds the space for this evening. So please close your eyes. May divine grace surround us, uphold us, and cherish us all. May it support us and our sacred trust and community. May we be strong together and our journeys be brighter and higher for having walked side by side. May we be guides for others and ourselves with clarity, tenderness, and light, feeling gentle in our minds and clear with our words, being strong in our creations, sending peace in all directions of time. With gratefulness, we take this moment to arrive and join together. Open your eyes, welcome to the room, and now over to Lisa to introduce our special guest.
Lianne Morgan-Sands is a multi-passionate entrepreneur and equestrian of many years who viewed the pandemic as a unique opportunity. Having always been proactive about health and well-being, she took steps to invest further in herself during this globally critical time. She became a participant in the brilliant Wildfit health style and lifestyle approach. The results she experienced and the knowledge she gained impressed her so much that she trained to become a certified Wildfit coach to empower others. You'll learn that getting older does not have to suck. Regardless of your age or stage, you can experience vibrant health, pain-free mobility, and medically approved removal of meds as a reality, but not a fantasy. It is now my pleasure to welcome our special guest of the evening, Lianne Morgan Sands.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm anxious to connect with your group here and hopefully share some wisdom that they might benefit from in their own lives.
Of course. Let's kick it off and get it started. So Lianne, tell us how and why did Wildfit come into your life?
Well, like you mentioned in my intro, if it weren't for the pandemic, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I probably never would have found Wildfit. But it got to be August of 2020. And the shutdown started in March and it got to August and I could see this was not going to be ending quickly. And I said to my husband, we're being good little soldiers, we're isolating, we're, limiting ourselves, we're putting the masks on, the whole bit. But okay, we're doing what everybody wants us to do, and that's great. But what are we doing for ourselves, other than keeping ourselves safe and tamped down? And I said, really, the only thing that we can do is look after our own health and our immune systems. So he said, yeah, but the two of us are in pretty good health. I said, yeah, but that doesn't mean it can't get better. So I said, I'm going to start looking around, and I'm a looker and I'm a seeker and I'm an ongoing student. So anyway, I can't even tell you how I came across Wildfit. It had to be probably somewhere on social media, and I'm only on Facebook, or it could have been an email. I don't really know, but I saw this thing, Wildfit, which seemed an odd name, and it intrigued me, and I pursued a little further, and there was a master class given by the brilliant creator of Wildfit, Eric Edmeans, and so I signed up for that, and it blew me away just in terms of what he was saying, how he was saying it, common sense stuff that is not so common. And I just thought, well, okay, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole, only I didn't see it as a rabbit hole. I saw it as something that really made sense. So I jumped on the course. It wasn't cheap, but it was, I thought, more than worthwhile. So my husband and I sort of did it together. And all along the way, it was just a marvelous experience. And slowly but surely, in baby steps, my health began to improve. And I was already healthy. I mean, I really had no meds or anything. I have no diagnosed illnesses, but I could see it was improving. And by the time we got to the end of it, I was literally blown away. In my particular case, okay, I was definitely a little bit, lackluster. Let's face it, who wasn't at that point in time? All of that shifted and changed. I hadn't thought that I needed to lose any weight, maybe 4 or 5 pounds, but that was not why I was there. And by the time I finished the actual challenge itself, which is 13 weeks long, I believe I'd lost like 19 pounds. I continued to lose some after that, and I wasn't even trying because, as I discovered, a healthy body will settle its own weight issues. We really don't have to worry about it. And so then I realized there was a coaching aspect, which I'd had no knowledge of before I started the program. And there was another masterclass. I get how masterclasses work. And so I went to the masterclass and was equally impressed by Eric's whole layout of the course. I mean, it was intensive. This wasn't a 1 month, 2 month kind of thing and bingo, you've got your certification. There was a whole long process, and we had to be written exam, oral exam, audited when we did our first class, all of that before they were going to give certification. And to me, though I knew it would be tough, I thought, they're serious about what they're doing. And I kind of knew that from the course, and obviously they want their coaches to be. And let me comment to you too. When I took the course, I took it in a group of 700 people. And Wildfit actually really likes the small groups, which is what most hosts do. This was a larger group that was doing it. It was Mind Valley. Some of you people may know it. My first class said they couldn't have fathomed doing it in that setting. But the small group ones are really the most effective. And I could see why they were making sure we were well trained. And so that's how I discovered it. And I've not looked back since. And in the 700 people that I was with, I realized the wide array of illnesses, problems that people are suffering from. There was all kinds of breakthroughs, like huge breakthroughs. And for everybody, there wasn't anybody in that course who didn't gain real pluses for themselves, but not plus in weight. The weight went down. And so that's how I ended up being the coach. And I just sort of strode forward from there and began my classes in 2021. And I say to my amazement, but I was well trained. All of my students have done wonderfully. And it's just made it a mission of mine to get more people into this stuff, because it just makes so much sense and it works so readily and it simplifies their life.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, if everyone's having an improvement, then there must be some special sauce to it.
Exactly.
Awesome. So this is great segue into my next question. How does Wildfit differ from other diet programs that are out there right now?
Wildfit is not a diet. Eric Edmeades, as I mentioned, the creator, says this is not a diet. He's not the diet guy. He never wants to be the diet guy, because in the long run, diets don't work. This is about the human diet. Like, we don't eat what horses eat. We don't eat what beavers eat. You get my drift, right? Every species has a diet, and it's based on evolution. And Eric himself, when he was in his early 20s, which would be about 25 years ago, he had poor health, just from the standpoint of sinus, allergies, all that kind of thing. And he went on his own path to avoid tonsils out, steroids, all that kind of stuff. Even at that age, he felt it made no sense. And so he did his own research and came up with an approach he thought would work for him, which he did for himself, and was a fabulous success, to the point that these young men in his life, his buddies, said, hey, do it for us. And so slowly but surely, he just had more and more people, referral kind of thing. They saw. And he taught all these people, and everybody had a great success. Now, in the meantime, he was building a huge career. He's an international speaker. He teaches high-end CEOs and entrepreneurs all over the world. Oh, he is a Canadian citizen. And he immigrated from South Africa when he was a kid with his family, but he is a Canadian citizen. He has been awarded a Medal of Honor by our Senate for what he's done globally for human well-being and health. So this is not somebody who's just a fly-by-night kind of thing. But gradually, it started to grow like Topsy, in essence, and he started to incorporate it into his coaching, for entrepreneurs and CEOs and that kind of thing. And it just started to take off. And so it became more of a branded kind of thing. I don't think it was called necessarily Wildfit from the beginning. And he set it up as part of his company. It's our headquarters for Wildfit are in Calgary. So it's kind of cool. It's a Canadian company. And that's how it got started. And it's just a whole different approach. It's based on human evolution, what we as humans are meant to eat. And I know that it does not mean sticks and twigs and berries only, folks, but it is a cyclical kind of thing, because we evolve with cycles in terms of seasons. And that doesn't necessarily mean the same seasons as we travel, but we use a cyclical kind of thing. And that's what makes the difference. And we have the freedom when we are, quote, living Wildfit, when we're all done the global challenge, of choosing how we want to use those to attain what we want to attain. And it just seems to work in a marvelous fashion for anybody who does it.
Awesome. I don't know if you mentioned this. When did he start that? When did he start all of this, Eric?
Well, he's in his early 50s now, and he talked about he was in his early 20s, maybe even late teens. So it has to be about 25 years ago or so. I mean, right now, it's hard to keep track of current figures because everybody's teaching all the time. But I mean, we've got to be approaching 75,000 people all over the world who have taken this. And I do mean all over the world, because he's done so much international work. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely not a new thing that, he drug up last month.
No, that's awesome. And it continues to grow.
Yes. Yep. In leaps and bounds, actually.
Leanne, I don't know if you're going to touch on this after, but I was curious when you talked about eating for the seasons, and it's a cyclical thing. Are you going to talk about that after? Or?
Well, I will a bit, but in one sense, it's not. Let me put it to you this way. The program is so brilliantly designed in baby steps that the cyclical aspect of it comes out through the whole experience of taking the program. So it really isn't necessary for me to explain that, because that's not going to explain a lot until you get into the program, and then we start to introduce those concepts. And we don't introduce them for a while. We go through the experience and everybody gets to kind of see it and feel it for themselves. But if somebody's got a specific question, I'm not trying to avoid it, but I don't think it's going to take you anywhere particularly beneficial at this point in time. Just that we are meant to eat cyclically, which I'm sure we all realize to some degree, but we don't do that now because everything is available 24/7, and that's not the human diet.
Right. No, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question. Good one.
Okay, so Leanne, it's really confusing out there. You go into the grocery store, where do you even look? Where do you even start? How do we know how to navigate, how to stay healthy and to get healthy? So how does Wildfit help us navigate this big endeavor?
You're right. It is an absolute chaotic world to try and figure out what is the right thing to do when it comes to eating, particularly when we walk into any grocery store and it is this smorgasbord times on steroids, really, of foods, right? And then we listen to media, we look at media, we talk to our friends, this worked for me, that worked for me. You can go to, nutritionists, and I'm not saying they're all bad, but I mean, all of these things, and we're trying to cobble together by cherry picking different things that we think will work for us, but we don't really know if they are by and large. And so the beauty of Wildfit is it's so cleverly created that, as I said, it builds in baby steps. It's an experiment. This is the best experiment that you will ever do on yourself and for yourself to learn about foods and what's possible for you, because none of us realize it. And quite frankly, I believe that none of you will realize it until you do go through Wildfit, because that experience of gradually we learn about sort of food psychology, then we start to build you up nutritionally. And by week 5 or so, 6, you will be more nutritionally dense than 90% of our population. So now your body is got everything that it needs. It's like you're going to run your body on high test fuel, as opposed to the crappy low price gas that makes your car clunk around. You know what I mean? It's the same situation. You're now going to have high octane food in your body, and now your body can do the job it's meant to do, to keep everything about you in balance, from your weight to your attitude to your ability to enjoy life, to certainly illnesses or discomforts, aches, pains. I mean, my own self, within about week 4 or so, I had arthritic hands from lots of riding, and that pain disappeared. Rings that I had in my hands that I'd had enlarged a couple of times were now falling off. That inflammation was all gone. And these are among all the amazing things that everybody notices. And I mean, they notice them differently because everybody's got different issues. We're not the same. We are not the same. We all have different issues. So the brilliance of Wildfit is that it's meant to make life much simpler for you by very clearly giving you the experience. And it's explained to you all along the way, and it's done simply and gradually. It's no big shock, and you're not going to eat anything that is bizarre at all. There's no weird foods. I've had people ask me, well, it's going to be this kind of weird food or that kind of weird food. Nope, there's not.
Back to basics. That's all it
Absolutely.
is.
Foundation foods, basics, and let the body do its thing and sit back and enjoy the ride.
Sounds awesome. And I just had a message from Kim. She asked, with the prices of food escalating, is this program expensive to continue? I guess she said after the program or after you've done the 90 days.
No, it is not expensive. And I do ask my class about that. Generally speaking, I know I'll speak for myself. I'll speak very directly for myself, but I have asked, no, it's not more expensive. Generally speaking, it depends, I suppose, where you shop. But for my husband and I, what we found was it's revenue neutral, basically. And right now with the pandemic and some of the things that are going to increase in price, you may very well have decided you don't want in your diet anymore anyhow. If you take, some of the things that we've decided we no longer are going to eat in those quantity, if at all, and we may be buying a higher quality vegetable or something or meat, but it's revenue neutral. It is not an over the top kind of thing. There's no ad. It's just groceries, folks. It's just groceries, and it's your choice of groceries.
And Mary Lou just added a point here too. So she said, is it a matter of eliminating certain foods or groups for a period to see how your body reacts? I'm not sure if you're going to touch on that later, or you want to.
I will a little, and again, it's all part of the magic. I won't say sauce, but magic as it builds. We don't talk about eliminating foods, but we do talk about taking a vacation from foods. This is all part of the experiment. So I say to folks, if you want to do Wildfit, you're in for an experiment, experience and an experiment. And so we're going to take vacations from certain kinds of foods, build you up nutritionally in other ways, and you see how that feels for you. Now, do I think that everybody who takes this is never going to, and we don't use words cheat or whatever, we talk about we're going to experiment and kind of veer off the path and try something else. We're going to, it's your choice. We're not sitting here. There's no guilt. There's no shame. There's no you achieved or you didn't. It's part of the experience. But yes, we take vacations from foods, and Eric explains brilliantly and in a very funny way. He's a fabulous presenter, guys. Like, he really is quite a fabulous presenter. And he explains why we're taking vacations from these groups of foods or certain foods, and how we can still continue on. And there are other things that can be done. And this is part of the whole recipe aspect that we provide with people as well. So, and it's not that recipes can't be adapted. Your own recipes can be adapted quite easily. So yes, there will be vacations from food, but ultimately by the end of the entire experience, you get to decide what you're going to do with how you want to continue living Wildfit. And everybody makes their own choices and creates their own cycles.
Awesome. So we're going to get to your acronym flow now, Leanne.
Okay.
For, everyone, I know that's one of your little favorite tips here. So explain your acronym of flow to highlight Wildfit's success for your clients.
Okay. So I love the word flow, and I definitely believe, and I know that the brilliant Wildfit method will give your life more flow. And I mean in every way. I mean physically, I mean psychologically, like you're just going to be a happier flowing kind of person. Life is just going to feel better. And so I came up with the word flow to kind of, in a little nutshell, kind of deal with major components of Wildfit. So the F it's all about food. Food, only food you get at your grocery store. I am not selling you any supplements. I am not selling you any shakes. I am not selling you any oils. I am not selling you anything. It's just about food and how we choose it, why we choose it, and how we eat it. And so the F is basically for food. And I will also say it's also for fun, because we do have a lot of fun doing this. People can think, oh my God, what are you going to have me eating? And I want to lose weight. And let's face it, most people do, but that's a sidebar to what everything else that happens. But the point is that the fun part is that we are a group, we are a small group, we bond together really well and really quickly, and everybody has a good time and lots of laughs. And there's no heavy duty stuff here. We're just all here to support one another. And that's one of the biggest keys to the success. So we've got plain old food available at your grocery store. We've got lots of fun and food psychology. We definitely deal with food psychology. That is the foundation for the program. So that food psychology, I'm adding the psychology, it's still part of food, but it's the psychology of food, not just the stuff you're putting in your mouth. And that's a key to the whole process, because indeed, there is definitely psychology to all of us eating and how we eat what we eat. I had one client who discovered that she had this was her phrase, a need to feed. She realized it came out of her upbringing, and that they were eating right after they'd finished eating. They would eat dinner, do the dishes, and then decide what they were going to eat for the rest of the evening. And she said, like, really, we weren't even hungry. So there's all kinds of quirky little things that we have just emotionally fallen into, that we've been marketed to. And that food psychology becomes really important to the whole foundation for Wildfit. And it keeps coming back through the whole process. It will be part of anybody who takes this, that will be part of what they're aware of for the rest of their lives, I would suspect. So that's my F's. More than one. L is love yourself. Love yourself first and foremost. And indeed, all of this is about loving yourself the most, and caring about your health, and caring about how you are going to live your life. And when we treat ourselves, we talk about we're going to treat ourselves. Oh, like I had a really rough day, I'm going to treat myself with this bag of chicks. Or, oh, I had a really good day, I'm going to celebrate with, an extra beer, whatever it is. Okay. Well, if we love ourselves really well, should we not treat ourselves well? Like sometimes we're maybe treating ourselves with things that it turns out we'll discover are not the best for us. And there's nothing that tastes as good as feeling fabulous. I mean, if you stop and think about it, which we often don't do. And all this comes down to loving yourself. And that's a big part of the whole aspect, is loving yourself. And as we find out in the group, we end up loving each other because we all go through this process together. You're also going to learn about the 600. It's another L I threw in. Learn about the 6 hungers. There are 6 basic hungers we talk about. And you know what one of those hungers is, folks? It's thirst. Most of us are dehydrated. And we may think we're hungry, but we're actually thirsty.
Yeah.
Cheers. Water in this. So that's just one of the hungers. I'm not going to give them all away because they're fun. You may guess at some of the others. It's a game, we can play. But we do learn about the 6 hungers, because understanding the 6 hungers helps us understand and love ourselves better and how we deal with food. And we laugh frequently, which is part of F and fun. We laugh at ourselves frequently. What we fall into, what we see each other, we're not laughing at, we're laughing with. But the whole laughing aspect of realizing, as this woman said, we had a need to feed and we weren't even hungry. Like, how weird is that? All right, so that's my L's. O is open your mind, your mindset, open your eyes, open your senses to what you're going to learn and hear from Eric, because he is the master teacher, and all that training, by the way, is done online with Eric doing videos, because he's the master presenter. I'm the coach, and I work with you after the fact in live Zoom calls. But open your eyes to new knowledge. We all think we know a lot about food, and I've been a bit of not a foodie, but I have been very interested in health my whole life. So I've done a number of things, with nutritionists, doctors, whatever. I thought I knew a lot. I'd never heard it like this. I'd never heard some of the evolutionary stuff, which is really not that boring. My husband kept saying, and he's a bit of a cynic about all this stuff, he said, this is so common sense. Like, so common sense. We've never been told this in this way. Like, this should be in schools. And I basically agree. So you have to be prepared to receive new knowledge about foods and how they interact in our bodies and how they even came into our diet. Some of the foods that we so readily eat, it turns out, were not meant to make us thrive. It was so we wouldn't starve to death. And yet they're now commonly accepted as it's just part of our diet. Well, turns out, okay, you can keep eating them, but maybe if you take a vacation from them and you might discover something different, you go, oh. And then you might say, oh, but I'm going to have some of those again. And then you have them and you go, oh,
I thought
that experiment wasn't so good. I thought it tastes better than that, and it doesn't. And now I feel kind of crappy. So it's learning about this in so many different kinds of ways. And you will see how your body really does start to nutritionally benefit in a very short span of time, easily within 3 to 4 weeks. Everybody starts to notice little things. I don't mean 50 pounds are going to drop off you in that point in time. That's not realistic and it's not even healthy. But you will start to notice things, little things. And there's way more victories that have nothing to do with weight than there is weight loss. And that's important to remember. And my W is Wildfit will allow you to customize your way of living a vibrant life. And I think we all want that. We're not sure how to do it. As you mentioned, Lisa, with your question, how do we make sense of this? There's just, it's just, this, folks, really does give you, and I want to say kind of an ABC, baby step kind of way, the path, the pattern that you can experiment with on your own and discover for yourself what it will do for you. And that's my Wildfit way. You get to, as you led off with, create a health style and a lifestyle that you love. You get to create it. You do the experiment, you learn what you have to learn. We all talk about it. And each person gets to create what they want for themselves when the whole Wildfit program is finished. So it's really all about simplify, 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 and flow. So that's my little acronym thing. If there's any questions, that's great.
Yeah, feel free if anybody has any questions to pop them in the chat box. It definitely sounds very structured and easy to follow, which creates lots of flow.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pass it over to Lee now. She has some questions for you as well.
Yep.
So Leanne, how does changing one's diet lead to other changes? So to people's medical conditions, their mental health. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, those are the kind of nebulous things. I mean, people do come into the course at times feeling depressed, and particularly with this pandemic, let's face it, we've all been kind of anxious and in varying degrees. But I don't think people really realize how much their food intake affects their mind, their mental state, anxiety, and all those kinds of things. And it's, we humans are smart, but we're not that smart to put it together. We're a little too simplistic in terms of, well, it's like I take an aspirin and my headache goes away, right? Okay, so that we get that cause and effect. But the cause and effect of food and what we put on our mouths and some of what we choose to eat, and that's always been around in our lives without any question, mom and dad served it to us. The whole issue is that this Wildfit gives us the chance to have this nutritionally, I'm going to use the term bulked up, and I don't mean muscle, but I just mean you're now bulked up with good nutrition in your body. And now the body just naturally is in a space where it can do what it wants. I mean, I'm sure if it was an entity, it would be saying, geez, finally, you're giving me the stuff I want. And if I've got this inside me, just look at what I can do for you. And literally across the board and in varying degrees, but absolutely energy, mind, strength, aches, pains, all that kind of stuff kind of just fades away. In fact, it's funny. We all notice when something is wrong, but sometimes when a pain disappears, we don't notice it so much. It's just like, it's gone. Great. But I mean, we don't even acknowledge it. And that's one of the things that I know I found myself is that sometimes things snuck up on me. I finally realized, for instance, about my hands not even aching anymore before the rings got so loose. I didn't kind of recognize it because it had gone. And then one day I banged my hand against something, and normally that would really hurt. And I went, oh, that didn't hurt so much. So, I mean, I can't explain to you because I'm not a medical person, but physiologically, I can't explain the chemicals of what happens to say, how does that affect you? I just know that across the board and around the world, because I mean, I'm in touch with coaches all over the world, literally all over the world. And we're all humans, folks. We all have a human diet. And though it can vary slightly in terms of what our ingredients might be, it works anywhere and everywhere. You don't have to be shopping in North America at our supermarkets. I mean, God help us, I don't think our supermarkets are the best place to be shopping anyways. I mean, I know even in Europe, they've got standards that are higher than some of ours for things. And just the way they handle food is quite differently. But it's just this matter of having this opportunity to really go through the shifts and changes that we will all feel, and in different ways, because we're all different people, is kind of the experience that I can tell you about, I can speak to, but I can't actually explain how that happens. It's just because it's common sense when you actually start putting it into practice. And that's, to me, that's the beauty of this whole process.
It's fascinating. Is that something that he does speak to at some point? How, like, why on this level, that because our body, you talked about being more nutritionally dense. I like that, how that sounds, and that we are, we have probably these different hungers that we're either not properly feeding or not listening to properly. And maybe it doesn't even matter, is maybe what I'm hearing from you, that it doesn't matter how it actually works. It's just that our bodies are now getting what they need and not taking in the stuff that's probably toxic to us.
Right. Yes, exactly. That's what it is. I mean, and when we're nutritionally dense, our body will actually clear away toxins. Maybe to explain this a little bit more, maybe I will go into the cycles for you. The different cycles are, I mean, they're standard. They're like spring, summer, fall, winter. I mean, he does speak in that fashion. Okay. So if you want to think back evolutionarily speaking to, when things were, we were tribes traveling around, we were hunters and gatherers, the standard stuff that we've all, learned in school. So the spring season is when everything starts to, the greens start to come up, the land is coming back. It's like a spring, everything is refreshing. The food then is very different to choose from than in the summertime. I mean, animals are starting to stir. Hunters can actually get more food now in the spring. We're eating sort of fresh sprouted kinds of green things, right? We're not eating what we have at harvest time, are we? We're eating a different kind of food. And so the evolution of spring is eating in that kind of mode with those kinds of foods. Now, summer, now we start to have some additional things. Like if we even think in terms of our own North American kind of thing, we start to get, what do we all wait for? June and strawberries.
Right. Raspberries.
Yeah. And raspberries, all the berries and stuff.
Berries. Yeah.
So now we're going up. Those are actually, they're fruits. They have sugar in them for sure, natural sugars, but they're not high sugar. They're a low sugar fruit, right? And this is part of what's explained. And when we think about, oh yeah, right. We're not eating, well, I mean, here in North America, I don't know where we would grow mangoes. They come from the south, right? That's a year out. But they're a very sweet, dense kind of food. Right. They're not a lightly sweet food. So in the summertime, we start to get a few more of the vegetables that come along. It's a little bit, the harvest, there's early harvest stuff. We get the nice lettuce, we get the peas, all that kind of thing. So we're now moving along and we're doing that. It's up from spring, but we're not into the fall. Then you move into the fall sequence, and the fall sequence is harvest. Well, harvest is where we've got lots of abundance, it's the harvest. I mean, the animals are still around. We can still hunt and everything. They haven't gone away to hibernate. So we can bring those all in to eat those. And we've got all the vast array. I mean, the whole Thanksgiving feast table, we all get that concept. And that's, there's a short and dirty in terms of that one. And all of that, of course, allows us to get the best of everything in one season. We don't have that year round, except now we have all of that year round because it's in our supermarkets and we don't care. We don't pay any attention. Now, that leaves winter. Winter is actually, it's a fasting season. It's when the food was not dense. So actually the fall season helps build people up in that respect. We all put on a little bit of weight, usually moving into winter time and stuff, right? And that all makes sense because that's actually what keeps us through the fasting thing. Now, Don't get me wrong. Wildfit is not suggesting that you fast for what? December, January, February, March. We're not doing that. But the point is, those are all part of the cycle, and we can incorporate those into our diet as we are, our cycles of our human diet for ourselves as we need to do it. And one thing that is pointed out is that if in fact you are suffering from some kind of disease or illness, the spring season is a whole renewal. And the spring season is where we might want to spend more time, because in that season, our body has got less to digest and it can work better at healing us and renewing us. If you've got the heavier foods of autumn in there, you're really making your body work hard, and particularly your pancreas.
Okay.
We learn all about the pancreas, actually. Mr. Pancreas, we call him in Wildfit. So does that give a little bit more of an idea of how it kind of works? And it brings in the cycles too that you mentioned earlier, Lee.
Yeah, no, that's because I was a little bit aware of it and fascinated by, because that isn't something you would hear in any other kind of program around food. Now, how would that translate if you were, in a southern country? How do they, look at the seasons and so in a Latin American country where they would have mangoes, for example, and avocados and stuff like that, almost not year round, but more readily available. So would that be, you'd look at the seasons and what is grown locally there to?
No, it is not. It is not based on our local produce. We all want to support local produce, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying you have to eat mangoes or pineapples or any of that kind of stuff, but what we do is through the program, we learn what the various categories, seasons mean and what foods fit in there. So then wherever you are all over the world, you can choose out of your, local smorgasbord of what's there, what would be the best ones for you in the season that you want to be in. And that's how everybody customizes their program. They determine for themselves where they want to be. I mean, a natural thing would be, let's face it, at Christmas, holiday season, whatever, we all may eat a bit more than we normally do. So I know myself last year, because it was my first holiday season, not this past one, but the year before, we said, okay, fine, now we're still under lockdown. We didn't have the lavish family thing. Unfortunately, that would have been a little bit more. But anyway, when we got into the new year, I had a group going through Wildfit, and I went back into spring when they were first going in, because I knew we went back in because we knew, let's go back to spring and let's just get our bodies leveled out and get it back to peak performance.
So it doesn't always correspond to the actual season. Got it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You make it work the way you want to make it work for you and your lifestyle and your health style. Yeah.
Okay.
Some people who are dealing with a chronic kind of disease may spend far more time in spring.
Okay.
Or if they have a flare up, they'll go to spring. If I were to get COVID, I'd be in spring so fast it would make your head spin. I wouldn't be anywhere else. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. Yeah. And fascinating as well. I like that. I like the concept, and it makes sense. It really makes sense.
It's common sense, right? There we are.
Yeah. Why don't we from there kind of dive into, love to hear some stories of some of your most transformative client success stories. Okay.
I'm going to give you a really unique one to start with. And this is they're different, but they're the same.
Okay.
So these are two clients. Each came from different classes.
Okay.
They weren't like husband, wife, or anything like that. One was female, the other was male. That's how they were different.
Okay.
One was vegan. The other one was a meat lover.
And sorry, were these partners as well, or just okay?
Nope. Two separate classes. I mean, I saw this a neat analogy after I had the focus clients. And the other thing that was different was she wanted to lose weight. He did not want to lose weight. So why were they in Wildfit? might seem obvious for the she, except she's a vegan. Gosh, she should be healthy, shouldn't she? She should have it all figured out. This is a very bright woman. She's been doing it for 4 years. But she says something's not working here. He, meat lover. Okay, that's fine. We're not anti-meat here at all. And he didn't want to lose weight. He felt if he lost weight, he does a very physical kind of job, he would not have the stamina. And he was already tired and fatigued and whatever. There is a similarity the two of them had, both of them dragging their butts around, not happy campers. They were both in their early 60s. They both wanted to eliminate or reduce medications for diabetes and blood pressure. That was, for the two of them, a key thing they wanted done. So the same but different in a sense. Their number one thing was the same, and yet they varied in so many other ways. Wildfit worked beautifully for both of them. Both of them. So the results for the two of them are, let's deal with their number one concerns right off the top. They both reduced their diabetic and blood pressure medications.
Nice.
Medically approved, because we don't suggest doing any of that all on their own. They knew how to monitor themselves. They were under doctor's care. And when they started to experience the fact that their blood sugar levels were dropping, they knew enough to say, okay, I can lower and lower, but now I'm so low, where do I go? You call your doctor, you make sure. Right. So tests were done and everything. The doctors were also amazed, absolutely amazed at what was happening. What have you been doing? Well, it's this thing called Wildfit. What? Someday I hope Wildfit is a household word. That's kind of the aim and the game of all us Wildfit coaches and followers. So yes, doctors are amazed. And when they hear what it is, they go, wow, well, keep on doing it. Just keep on doing it, because this is all looking good. The two of them also had the same chiropractor, who happens to be my chiropractor. And he said to each of them that they had increased the quality and the longevity of their lives by 20 years from what he saw. Now, maybe also from what he was doing to them. I think in another life I'd be a chiropractor too, but like that's what he saw. And so that was actually pretty cool. I wasn't in the room, but they each told me that. So that was kind of neat. And it turned out one guy, I didn't realize it was him, my chiropractor, but anyway, it was. So that was really cool. They each have achieved losing weight. Now they're now past the challenge, each of them won at different times, but they each have come darn close to achieving the weight that they had when they were in their 20s.
Oh, wow.
Remember I said they started in their 60s. Remember that he didn't want to lose any weight. And he was afraid that he would not be strong enough. To his surprise, even though he lost weight, he was stronger. And so that kind of blew him away. So that's really cool about that. They both have more energy. They have more clarity. They seem to have more joy in life and in their food too. I would say both of them have more joy in their food, because they now feel really good, I think, about what they're eating, and they know why they're eating it, and they can do what they want when they want, and they know how to keep it exactly where they want it. And I would say that both of them, from anything I've seen and talking to them, they both feel quite young again. And that's why old age doesn't have to suck.
I love that line.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about throwing it in, but I thought it was a good one.
No, I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, because it's the other phrase is, oh God, old age sucks. And I just sit there and go, oh God, it doesn't have to. It really doesn't have to. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I wanted to use that one because it was just a really neat way of talking about different things and totally different kinds of people and how it works so well. So that's one. I have another couple I'll tell you about if you're interested.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. So my next couple is actually a mother and daughter.
Okay.
And that was really cool. I really like encouraging families, whether it's spouses or mother-child. I'm not talking child. This is an adult child and her mother. And it was really cool because the daughter originally contacted me in concerns about her mom, who had a number of conditions and medical problems and stuff, and was just really dragging her butt. She's living on her own now. Her husband died a few years ago, and the pandemic was on and all that stuff, right? And she was concerned about her mom, and she said her mom had reached out to her. And she's a neighbor. I happened to talk to her about Wildfit. So she said, I'm just wondering, but she said, like, do you think there's too many problems that, for you to take on? I said, nope, absolutely not. And so she said, okay, well, let me talk to my mom. And she got back to me within a day or so. And she said, we're both going to take it.
Oh, beautiful.
And I went, bravo. She said, I really hope this will help bring us closer together as well. So, the mom has 2 teenage sons. She has a daughter with a very serious syndrome, and requires a lot of care and work, not just from the family. They have people helping. Both she and her husband are entrepreneurs. So they have a very, very busy life. And so we've got that person who is the mother and very much supported her mom, because her mom said, like, I'm not real fancy with food and stuff, and I'm not sure what to do. But the daughter was, because she had to deal with it with her own family as well, not to mention her daughter, who had dietary needs. So the 2 of them worked through the program together. And let me talk about the mother first. She's quite a character. Well, she turned into quite a character. The first time she was on the Zoom call, she wasn't too spunky. She looked beat. She looked,
Tired.
sure, a little reluctant to talk. And but nonetheless, she played along with us. She followed right along with everything. Her daughter certainly buoyed her up. And I have to tell you that as the program progressed, I watched the mom in particular turn into who she was meant to be, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. She was down. Makes me teary thinking of it.
Sorry, say that again. She was what?
She was really in a down spot. And
Mm-hmm.
to see her evolve into what she ended up being and the way she was feeling, we had a lot of fun. I don't know why I'm crying, but
because you made an impact, and yeah, and those are, I know as a coach with what I do, when you have those transformative experiences with people, that's why we do what we do. It's
absolutely
everything, right? Because we
absolutely
all want to feel better.
Well, exactly. And she was so different from beginning to end, and the transition was just beautiful to see. I think she had a hard time seeing it herself, but the group could. And we buoyed her up along the way. She got better and better, and she got funnier and funnier. Like she's quite a character. And in the end, she got off her insulin or her metformin stuff. All her diabetic stuff was reduced. The most amazing, I'm going to give you the most amazing part of her story. And that actually happened towards the end, in the fact that she was coming to visit her daughter. And by then we knew each other. I actually didn't know her mom when we started. And so I knew who she was. She knew who I was. We were out walking the dog, and she pulled over and she said, "Hey, I've just been to the chiropractor." I said, "Oh yeah." She said, "You'll never believe." I said, "What?" Well, she said, "I used to work for him for a long time, but she said, I've been going to him for years and years and years." And she says, "I have fibromyalgia." She'd never told me that on the intake form. I didn't know that was one of her issues. And I went, "Oh." Well, she said, I haven't seen him for quite a while, but she said, I went, and she said, he worked on me for quite a while and did things to me that he's not done in, ages, because he couldn't because of the pain. She said, I thought I was getting better, but I wasn't really sure. But she said, anyway, she said, by the time he finished, he turned to me and he said, "You're like a normal person now. What have you been doing?" and she said, he said, "I couldn't have done that to you before. For years, I couldn't do any of those moves. Like most of those moves, I couldn't do. It had to be very delicate." But he said, you are a whole different person. And that was just like the cream frosting on the cake that we don't eat very much anymore.
Right.
We don't eat it, but that was the cream that day. And that was fantastic. But that's not even the biggest part. The biggest part that was, it indeed brought mother and daughter together, just doing the whole thing together. But on top of that, the daughter travels with her work. And she asked her mom if she'd like to go. This was long after the Wildfit challenge was over. If she'd like to go out west with her to a job that she had out there and go for a trip together. Now, the mom could no more have done that, nor would the daughter have even asked her to do that at the beginning of the challenge. She said it just wouldn't have been possible. My mom couldn't have done it. They had a blast. Pictures all over our Facebook group, because we have a Facebook group for all our clients. And they had a blast. And they couldn't have done it before. And mom says she plans on doing it again with the daughter. I don't know if the daughter knows this yet, but mom says she's going to do it with the daughter. So seeing that kind of huge impact on a mother-daughter, 2 generations, was just awesome. And the daughter, I mean, she had her own challenges. She's got 2 teenage boys, they prepare meals together. And yet she, they each did their thing. She gradually introduced foods. Some of the recipes the mom made, the boys said, wow, this is a new favorite. So it was so neat to see it all come together in 2 different directions and impact a family in the way that it did.
That's such a powerful story. And I can tell by, when those kinds of changes happen in people's lives, it has a trickle down effect in every area of their life.
Absolutely. Just think of that entire family. That is a whole trickle down, and, from friend to friend, it becomes as well. So absolutely. So anyway, those are my 2 most dynamic ones. And they happen to be because, of the way I kind of I didn't set up mother-daughter. They were that all on their own. But it was fabulous. And it was in my first class. It was quite exciting to have something like that in my very first class. Other ones that I'm just gonna give you little highlights of are, you never know what somebody's going to say. So I had one client who said, I got a brand new prescription for my glasses, like when we started the challenge, and that was nearly 3 months ago, because she was near towards the end. She said, I discovered my new glasses don't work for me anymore. I can't use them. Like she said, I've had, like, the computer, it's like awful. Like I'm up there going, it's not working. So she said, I went back upstairs to my bedroom, pulled out the old glasses and went, oh, that's better. She said, my vision's improved. Like, who knew? Now I have since seen other people say they've had vision improved. I mean, mine might have slightly, but not to that degree. I do notice some things. I used to have kind of tearing eyes. I don't have that anymore. Don't ask me what particular function that is, but I don't have tearing eyes except when I tear. But I mean, the ones that when it's not supposed to tear. So that was a very interesting one. Had another client who was an adult amateur athlete, plays women's hockey, has, I think, probably since she was a young girl. She's got all her daughters, she has 5 daughters, are all off at, 4 daughters are all off at university. So, she's an older age group, but she still plays hockey. She definitely wanted to lose weight, and she was definitely feeling down, and she now had an empty nest syndrome. So that was part of why she was feeling down. But the biggest revelation for her was knee and joint pain gone. During the challenge, she actually got hit in the ankle with a strong shot of the puck. And she said, like, it hurt like crazy. She said she stepped out of the game. She said it was definitely not in good shape. She said, I've never had anything like that heal so fast. Well, think about it. Why, of course it would heal fast, right? If the body's now functioning optimally, the body can heal faster than if it's bogged down with some of the silly stuff we're putting in our mouth without thinking about why we're putting it there or how often we're eating it.
Right.
She was blown away by that. She also did lose 22 pounds, and she now is wearing size 8 jeans, and she's thrilled.
Right. So back to her high school days too.
Well, I think probably pretty much. I mean, she was absolutely thrilled with that. And I get the fun story she told us last week was the fact that her daughters were all saying, Mom, you're wearing these schleppy old clothes that don't fit you anymore. Like, you've done all this hard work. And so I guess Dad said to the girls, okay, go shopping for your mother for Christmas. Came home with a huge array of clothing, and they made her strip down in front of the Christmas tree after she opened it, said, put it on now. We want to see it. She said, I held the jeans up and said, these are not going to fit. She said, put them on. And she said, by gosh, they did.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I mean, the weight thing to me is kind of secondary, except I know it's not secondary to a lot of people. And when they discover that they can feel so much better about themselves and their bodies and their whole mindset. It's just a total win-win-win-win, right? It's like knocking over bowling pins in a bowling alley.
Yeah, I love your quote. Nothing tastes as good as feeling fabulous, right? Like that's, you know, because when we feel fabulous in our clothes, when we feel fabulous, yeah, there's nothing better than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyway, so does that give you an idea of the
Absolutely. And I would be curious from the clients that you've had go through your, you know, that you've coached, because what happens with a lot of programs, with a lot of diet fads, is that, you know, it's like we get to the goal and then we stop. So how does this program differ? And, you know, I get the sense from the cycles that you're going into different cycles depending on what's happening, but is it that and the psychology that is brought in that really has people, like it becomes your lifestyle, right? Because it's now I'm a person who values my health, and therefore this is the way I live my life.
Right.
I assume.
Yep. Okay. So I have formed an alumni group for all of my graduates.
Okay.
So that's an ongoing thing. It's a free group. It's not a membership paid or anything. And I have a Zoom call a month with them. If they want extra coaching, I mean, I can arrange for that. There would be extra cost for that. But the group itself, that's how it stays together. And as a new class graduates, I bring in a new group. So that's what I offer to my clients. And I'm always a text, a phone call, an email away if you've got a specific problem. But generally speaking, we've done it, you know, as a group. And I mean, I had one client who was in the alumni, again, very busy and stuff. And she was quite active for a while. And then she got very busy with work. And she said, I don't think I'll be there in the next little while, but it doesn't mean I don't love you guys. I just don't have time for it. And then 2 weeks later, she got on the alumni group and she said, help, I've kind of had a bad week and I've been somewhere I shouldn't be and I've been experimenting too much. And so I want to get back into spring and I need some accountability. So who's going to step up and, you know, contact me each day? And so there we were. That's what we did for her. She got herself back on track. I mean, within Wildfit itself, there's also a group called Living Wildfit. It's a Wildfit group. It is a membership group. It's a subscription group. Some people have jumped on that as well. It depends how deep you want to go and what you want to do. But certainly within my own coaching group, it's there. And actually, I'm just going to do a global challenge with all my alumni. So there's some keeners who want to go do it again because they want to keep on going. And they want to, I mean, it's just like, you know, you read a good book twice. Well, you had a great read with Wildfit first time, and now you're going to read it a second time, and now you've got even more knowledge to go even further. So I've had a good bunch of them have jumped on board and said, hey, let's do this together. So, you know, and we did a spring fling kind of thing. We called it the Rogue Spring because that group at the time was kind of a rogue group. And so I said, okay, well, let's do it rogue. So we did it rogue. But everybody accomplished what they wanted. So I'm thinking you can tell by my personality, I'm serious about this, but I like to have fun and I like to work with the people that are my peeps, so to speak. And we do stuff that way in order to keep it together and to keep everybody where they want to be with what their journey is.
Oh, that sounds like a beautiful way to stay supported in the community and the conversation. And I think, you know, especially right now, given there's a lot of disconnection, it's such a wonderful way with other people that are in this same conversation to be supported. And like you said, this was part of your journey in COVID to go, how can I feel better? And what a wonderful way to feel better with a group of people and be supported on the journey.
Yep, absolutely. The only thing this group is craving is they would like to get together in person. And COVID has not managed that yet, but it's, you know, it's in our dreams. Like maybe this summer, who knows? We'll wait, see.
Well, maybe by the summertime, if not, we'll figure out how to teleport ourselves to places, right?
Are you working on
we'll put that out there. And we can all teleport ourselves so no one will know. And teleport ourselves back home.
And we bring our Wildfit dishes through your teleport method because we all want to have a Wildfit feast at this gig.
Oh yeah, well I think you can just teleport the meal with you, right?
Okay, good.
Right?
Okay.
Don't even have to make it, it's teleported in.
All right. If
you're gonna go big, right? Might as well dream it all. It's like the
Absolutely.
Jetsons, right? Grew up with the Jetsons.
Yeah,
It's like push that button and there it is.
sounds good to me.
Yeah. I had another question for you. What is, I kind of jumped to the last, I had a curiosity and it jumped to the last question I was going to ask you, but this one is, what is the breakdown of the structure of the course kind of week to week? So I know you touched on it probably a little bit, but.
Yep. So basically weeks 1 and 2, as I explained, so I won't go much more. It's the foundational stuff. It's the food psychology. We learn about the 6 hungers there because that's part of the food psychology. And in week 2, we introduce a special little new, let's call it the secret sauce. I forget, I think Lisa said something about the secret sauce. We'll call it the secret sauce. I'm not giving away the name of it, but we introduced that in week 2, and that's starting to build us up nutritionally. That's our first step. That's our first baby step. Then weeks 3 through to 5 we start to now focus on, let's pay attention to the good stuff in our diet. Let's work on that. And let's start to move away from we call them non-supportive foods. We want supportive foods. It's not good and bad, but we want supportive foods. And we start to take vacations from the non-supportive foods in baby steps. Then by week 6, now we're going to move into the spring cycle. And the spring cycle is where we now really get to be in full-blown, wow, look at what's happening to me. Look at how I'm feeling. Look at all the magical things that I'm happening. Look at all the victories that are happening to me, some of which you may not even realize. I mean, I remember somebody talking about their skin early on, and another person came back the next week and she said, I hadn't noticed my skin, but after I heard her say skin, I went, oh yeah, my skin is better. So all those kinds of things. So that's that we go into spring for about 5 weeks. And then what we do is we ease out of spring through week sort of 10. Yeah, 10. We come out of spring into summer to make a transition. So we're doing it as a group. Then we go back into spring because everybody thinks, oh, spring's going to be tough. But what they discover is spring is not as tough as it was maybe the first time where you had to learn how to do it. It wasn't awful. It was like, oh my goodness. We go back into spring. And then we finish on week 12, the experiment. And week 13, the last week, is how we now as a group all talk about how we're going to live Wildfit for ourselves. We make a decision about how to do it because the experiment is over. Eric is not laying down the methodology each week to follow if you want the most success. Now you get to decide what you're going to do in week 13 and make your plans going forward. So that's how it evolves.
That sounds like it's logical.
Absolutely. Logical common sense. There we go again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this. And at this point, I'd love to open it up to the group. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Leanne about the program, maybe specific questions to you, please feel free to either put up your virtual hand and we can unmute you, or you can put it in the chat box. Or if anyone wants to share I know there's some people that have done Wildfit, I think, that are here this evening. I don't know if anyone wants to share their experience. There's lots of smiles. What I will share, people think about if there's something they do want to ask, my girlfriends, how it ended up that Leanne, I connected with Leanne was a girlfriend of mine that I'd done my NLP training with. She had bought the Wildfit program for her partner, and he never used it. So I think he had very poor eating habits, and she thought that she had researched this and was fascinated by it, and she thought this would be a great idea. But again, we have to, I think, in the end, we have to do stuff for ourselves. So she realized he was never going to do it. And she was already a healthy eater. She went in to kind of get sugar freedom for herself. And she really found it such an empowering program that has become a complete different lifestyle for her, and in turn, like, she didn't need to lose weight, and yet, she lost weight, and she found that she actually ended up having food freedom and eating in a very different way when she already thought she was, like, when I met her, when we would go out, she was a person that was always eating really healthy, but now she had a whole other level of nutritious. I love this nutritionally dense kind of diet. Yeah. So Mary Luce has just asked, so how do you get started?
Oh, well, I think Lee and Lisa are going to give you some information for getting in touch with me. And you can, what I like to do for anybody who's interested is I have a free half-hour consult with you to talk about, your health, your lifestyle, what it is you'd like to achieve with Wildfit. I have a class starting on February 14th. So I'm enrolling people now. And that's basically all it takes to get started. And it's pretty easy, actually.
Does anyone have any last questions before we? Okay. Lisa, do you want to ask that question?
Sure. And I just want to
Laura?
point out too, at one point, Brown said, I'm so inspired with that powerful story. So when you were talking about your clients, Leanne.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the teary one?
Yes. If
Yes.
I remember correctly. Yes.
Yes. And Brown comes from us. He's in Malawi.
Oh, great. Nice to meet you,
Yeah.
Brown.
Yeah. So Cora, and hopefully I'm saying her name correctly. So she says, how does it work when you are out at restaurants or, with others that may be eating a different meal? Could definitely appreciate that because it's challenging. So
It is. We deal with all of that in the group. But, Eric brought up a very interesting point, and it's very true when it comes to restaurants. And especially nowadays, because let's face it, there are so many different diets out there and people do different things. Restaurants are definitely more accommodating. But Eric's view is when you go to a restaurant, the menu is actually showing you what the ingredients are that they have in the kitchen. So you don't have to take this entree, that entree, or whatever. You can simply say, gee, I love your menu and stuff. I'd really like to have that steak. And I'm wondering, I see you have broccoli. Could I have some of the broccoli? And he said, I've never been told no, ever. And yes, with the pandemic, we haven't had to do a lot of that, but we certainly have gone to restaurants, when things opened up a bit in the summertime, we went to an exhibit and stuff. And there were things on the menus that we didn't even have to, like I just said, oh my God, that looks gorgeous. And I can eat that. And remember, folks, I didn't make this point. There are no rules. There are guidelines in Wildfit. Okay. So even though there may be a small ingredient in something that, okay, it's not the most supportive food, but it's more important the good stuff you put in. If you have a bit of something sometime for whatever reason, it doesn't mean you've blown it, that you've fallen off the wagon and your 30 pounds are going to jump back on your body and somebody's going to beat you with a stick. So this is where you get to make the choice yourself and sort of say, well, I'm going to have that and I will have a little bit of whatever on it, which is not something I'd normally eat, but I know I can enjoy it. Now, at the same point in time, my husband did order a salad and we hadn't had cheese for a while. And he said, oh, I'll have some cheese. Oh, that night he said, okay, I had that bit of cheese and there was a fair bit of cheese there. And I should have taken some of it off. It might've been better, but whatever. So in the restaurants, it's easy. Now, when you go out to dinner, you make your decision. I have gone and eaten somebody's dinner totally. There wasn't any, I don't hang out with people who are serving only fast food. It might be a problem for me. But it's easy enough to eat stuff and to eat smaller amounts of stuff. Or if it's served out, you might take more of the vegetables and and some of the meat, but less of the appetizers, which maybe has some things that you're not going to. So it's not a big deal. And you don't, if somebody asks you why, just say, well, I don't feel like eating that. Everybody finds their own way of saying how they're going to deal with those. And we talk about those. Some of those are quite funny, actually. So it isn't something where you say, I'm in this box and I can never step out of it. It's your choice as to how much you step out and whether you step out. Some people will actually have, eat at home so that they're not going to be inclined to eat as much when they're out. So there's different strategies you can use. Absolutely. Depends on you and how you want to live Wildfit.
Leanne, thank you so much. It's been, I truly love this program. And I guess I didn't finish the thought, which was that my friend talked about this, and then a friend of mine decided to do the program, and he was doing it with you. And I said, okay, I need to know more about this. And so such a pleasure to have you on this evening to really give us a good sense of what Wildfit is about. So thank you.
Thank you so much, both you and Lisa, for the opportunity to do this. I really enjoyed working with you, and it's thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. So we're just going to do our closing intention and our final announcements. So if you all don't mind, please shut your eyes. As we close our time together, with gratefulness to all, we pause to offer each other love and kindness. May our understanding of love be expanded by what we have shared as we open ourselves to growth. May we rest in trust and surrender ourselves and our paths to divine grace, asking that this time together be protected, corrected, and held high. May we now see through love's eyes and understand beyond words. May we all be safe, happy, and healthy. May we all rest in full joy and know that there is no distance between friends in time or space. Divine strength and peace surround us until we meet again. Please open your eyes, and I'm going to pass it over to Lisa for our final announcements.
Thanks so much again, Leanne, for a great evening and conversation. You're clearly so passionate about this program and what you do, and anyone who would work with you would be honored to just have you alongside them. So thank you again.
Thanks.
And to recap our conversation, Leanne's learnings from this evening are: the brilliant Wildfit experience will guarantee more flow in your personal health style and lifestyle. So just to recap that FLOW acronym, the F is for food. It's simply all about food. No other products to purchase or use, only your groceries from a grocery store. L is for love. Love yourself first and foremost. O is for open. Open your mind and your eyes, all your senses to new ways. And finally, the W for Wildfit. Let's customize your own way of living a very vibrant life. In our highlights email, we will be sending Leanne's contact information. Like she mentioned earlier, she's offering her new course on February 14th, and she's been kind enough to have offering to our community of a discount of $100 to enroll in that course. So you can contact her directly for that. And like she said, she's available to do a 30-minute consultation with anybody who's interested. So the class size is limited. Just take action to get your seat reserved. And if you're interested in learning more about Lee's coaching sessions, her information and contact details will be included in the follow-up email. She does complimentary discovery sessions as well. And finally, our next LeeLa event will be held on Wednesday, February 16th with Shannon Brown, who is an artist, sound therapist, and Reiki practitioner. Together with LeeLa, she will share her journey and lead a sound therapy session. Shannon will play crystal sound bowls, rattles, chimes, tuning forks, and create tone with her voice. With the sound therapy session, you can expect to feel more relaxed, balanced, and calm. Hope to see some of you there. And until next time, everyone, be well, aloha, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.